Okay, let's get right into it. We are constantly, and I mean constantly, evaluating the world around us. People, ideas, you name it. But when we do that, we're walking this incredibly thin line between some really powerful and honestly pretty confusing concepts. So today, we're going to get some clarity on that. I mean, come on, you've been there, right? You make an observation, you're trying to be helpful, maybe even share a little wisdom, and boom, someone hits you with that label, you're so judgmental. It's frustrating and it just kills the conversation. So what is actually happening in that moment? Well, the whole problem usually boils down to this. We mix up four totally different ideas. We confuse discernment, conviction, judgment, and just plain old personal preference. And when we get those tangled up, well, that's basically a recipe for misunderstandings and a ton of conflict. So let's untangle this mess.
First things first, we've got to define our terms. Think of it like getting our tools laid out nice and neat before we start trying to build anything. It makes the whole process way easier.
Okay, first up is discernment. Now, this is not about pointing fingers. Discernment is a skill. It's the ability to look at a situation and actually see the difference between what's helpful and what's harmful. The book of Philippians even talks about this, saying the goal is to grow in knowledge and insight so we can figure out what really matters.
So what's a real-world example? Okay, imagine you realize that every single time you hang out with a specific group of friends, you end up falling back into habits you're trying to quit. Discernment is recognizing that pattern and deciding, hey, for my own well-being, I need to create a little distance. And here's the crucial part. You are evaluating the situation and its effect on you. You're not condemning your friends as people. See the difference?
All right, next up we have conviction. The key word here, the one you really need to remember, is internal. This is that feeling deep in your gut when you just know that something you said or did was off. The Gospel of John says its whole purpose is to work on us from the inside, to get us to look at ourselves. For instance, maybe you snap at a friend. Later on, even if they don't say a word about it, you feel that little nudge, that pang of regret. That's conviction. It's what pushes you to go apologize. It's all about humility, and it almost always starts from within, without anybody else having to say a thing. And here it is. This is where we step right over that thin line. Judgment. This is what happens when we stop evaluating a behavior and start condemning the person. We go from saying that action was harmful to saying you are a bad person. And that's exactly what Matthew 7:1 warns us against, acting like we're the final judge of someone's heart. Now just look at this slide, because it makes the difference crystal clear. Discernment evaluates a situation to find what's helpful or true. Judgment, on the other hand, condemns a person, basically acting like we have the authority to know what's in their heart. One is about seeking wisdom, the other is about passing a sentence. This right here, this is the aha moment. And make no mistake, judgment does real harm. Let's use a serious example. Say you see someone battling an addiction. Discernment would recognize that the behavior is incredibly destructive. But judgment? Judgment skips all the nuance and just slaps a label on them. Weak, immoral. It condemns the person, completely ignoring the complex struggle they're going through. Okay, and finally, the last piece of the puzzle. Personal preference. This one feels so obvious, but you'd be surprised how much trouble it causes. These are just our individual tastes. The music we like, the kind of movies we watch, the clothes we wear. They're totally subjective, and they are not a measure of a person's character or morality. And here's the trap we all fall into. The conflict just explodes the moment we take our personal preference and start treating it like it's some kind of universal moral law. Just because you don't like a certain style of music doesn't make it objectively wrong. When we do that, we're confusing our personal taste with capital T truth. So we've got our four definitions down. Now let's get into the really messy part, how we twist these ideas and get them all tangled up in our daily lives, in our thoughts, and in our conversations. This table is perfect for showing how we do this. I mean, think about it. How many times have you heard someone say they're just being discerning, when really they're just expressing a personal preference? The inner thought is, I don't like this, but what comes out is, I'm discerning that this is not good. Or, and this one's more dangerous, when someone passes a harsh judgment but calls it righteousness, because deep down they're thinking, I'm better than them. But this brings up a really fascinating twist. This quote from the Gospel of John, it suggests that making evaluations isn't actually the problem. The goal isn't to just turn off our brains. The challenge is to make a righteous judgment, one that's based on wisdom and truth, not just on what something looks like on the surface or on our own biases.
And you know what? This isn't just about how we view other people. It's about how we see ourselves too. This whole idea applies inwardly. We need to practice honest self-examination, which sounds a lot like conviction, right? Not just beat ourselves up with harsh self-condemnation. One leads to growth, the other just leads to shame.
Okay, so knowing all this, what do we actually do? How can we get better at this? Let's talk about a practical, healthier way to approach this whole thing.
Here you go, a simple 3-step approach. First, just pause and let conviction do its work on you first before you start focusing on what everyone else is doing. Second, get in the habit of examining your own actions and motives with real honesty. And third, when you do look at the world around you, focus on evaluating situations with wisdom, that's discernment, and not on condemning people, which is judgment. I love this summary. If you take anything away, let it be this. Discernment is our tool for understanding. Conviction is the engine for our own personal change. And preference, that's just a way we show our individuality. Each one has its own very important job.
And at the end of the day, why does this matter? Because when we finally learn to see these thin lines and respect them, it can change everything. It allows us to navigate our relationships, our disagreements, and our own inner lives with so much more wisdom and honestly, a lot more compassion. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Now that you've seen these ideas laid out, which one of these thin lines, maybe the one between discernment and judgment, or the one between your preference and the truth, which line will you try to walk a little more carefully today?